me ask you about the executive order the president issued about enhanced interrogation measures. What does that allow a CIA-held target? What kind of measures can we use to get information from them?
Well, you know, I can't discuss specific measures. A variety of reasons for that. One, if I announce what the specific measures are, it would aid those who want to resist those measures to train, to understand them, and so on. So I won't be too specific. Let me go back to a higher calling in this context. The United States does not engage in torture. The president's been very clear about that. This executive order spells that out. There are means and methods to conduct interrogation that will result in information that we need. And what I would highlight, I was concerned and worried and quite frankly appalled by Abu Ghraib. My view was America risked losing the moral high ground. And so I focused on this when I came back. What I can report to you is that was an aberration. The people who were responsible for the atrocities at Abu Ghraib have been held accountable, and they're serving a sentence for that. That is not the program the CIA was administering. It is not the program that the president approved in the recent executive order.
But by the use of the term enhanced interrogation measures, there clearly are things that are used to elicit information. Have we eliminated waterboarding? Can you confirm that?
I would rather not be specific on eliminating exactly what the techniques are with regard to any specific. When I was in a situation where I had to sign off as a member of the process my name to this executive order, I sat down with those who've been trained to do it, the doctors who monitor it, understanding that no one is subjected to torture. They're treated in a way that they have adequate diet, they're not exposed to heat or cold, they're not abused in any way. But I did understand when exposed to the techniques how they work and why they work, all under medical supervision. And one of the things that's very important, I think, for the American public to know, in the history of this program, it's been fewer than 100 people. And so this is a program where we capture someone known to be a terrorist. We need information that they possess, and it has saved countless lives because they believe these techniques might involve torture and they don't understand them. They tend to speak to us, talk to us in a very candid way.
Does this new executive order allow measures that if were used against a U.S. citizen who was apprehended by the enemy would be troubling to the American people?
I can report to you that it's not torture.
How do you define torture?
Well, torture is the attempt to define torture in the executive order. It gives examples of mutilation or murder or rape or physical pain, those kinds of things. Let me just leave it by saying the techniques work. It's not torture. You're not subjected to heat or cold, but it is effective. And it's a psychological approach to causing someone to have uncertainty and in a situation where they will feel compelled to talk to you about what you're asking them about.
And we would find it acceptable if a U.S. citizen experienced the same kind of enhanced interrogation measures?
Tim, it's not torture. I would not want a U.S. citizen to go through the process, but it is not torture, and there would be no permanent damage to that citizen.
Let me turn to Iraq, another key judgment from the National Intelligence Estimate. We assess that its association with AQI, al-Qaeda in Iraq, helps al-Qaeda to energize the broader Sunni extremist community, raise resources, and recruit and indoctrinate operatives, including for homeland attacks. That seems to suggest that the Iraq War has been a very effective recruiting tool for al-Qaeda.
It has served as a recruiting tool to draw additional terrorists into Iraq, but it's a mutually beneficial situation for both organizations. Now, the debate often is, was al-Qaeda in Iraq prior to the U.S.-led coalition invasion? Some members of those who associated with al-Qaeda were there. Zawahiri, who had served in Pakistan with Osama bin Laden, was the principal lead. In 2004, he swore allegiance to Osama bin Laden. As you know, he was subsequently killed about a year ago, June 2006. The person that replaced him has sworn allegiance to Osama bin Laden. So al-Qaeda finds it beneficial in that it's in the press, it draws in recruits, and Al-Qaeda in Iraq finds it beneficial because it unites in a broader context. There's one thing I think is very important. It's in the NIE, but it's often overlooked. There is an element of extremism in the Middle East that runs from North Africa down into South Africa, into the Levant, Syria, into Iraq, and over to Afghanistan, and even Pakistan. What Al-Qaeda has done is find a method for uniting those extremist views. And so what we see now is groups who are predisposed to extremism and terrorism are uniting under the Al-Qaeda banner.
But Al-Qaeda is a much more robust and larger presence in Iraq now than it was before the war.
That's fair to say. That's fair to say. Now, but let me just highlight one thing for you. This is also important. At one point in the war, Al-Qaeda controlled the huge expanse to the west. It's called Anbar Province. What's happened is, because of the atrocities in their approach, the leadership, the tribal sheikhs in that region, collaborated with the coalition and turned on Al-Qaeda. So is Al-Qaeda defeated in Iraq? No. But in some areas, they're back on their heels for two reasons. The local citizens have turned against, Iraqi citizens have turned against Al-Qaeda, and the coalition has been much more effective. As you know, the troops in this surge arrived in about the middle of June. And so the effort has been to take the fight to Al-Qaeda, and they had a fairly high level of success in doing that.
In terms of the violence in Iraq, which creates more of the violence? Which is the greater cause for violence? Sectarian conflict or Al-Qaeda?
I think it is both. In some cases, we even have Shia on Shia sectarian violence, but for the most part, it is Sunni versus Shia, and Al-Qaeda is the one that is the organization that attempts purposefully to serve as an accelerant, attacking things like the mosque, the Grand Mosque that was destroyed over a year ago, and then revisiting with attacking the two minarets that were still up. The whole purpose is something massive against the Shia, or against something the Shia holds sacred, to act as an accelerant to stimulate the violence.
But there seems to be, Admiral, a coordinated campaign by the administration to elevate Al-Qaeda as a threat in Iraq. And yet the Pentagon quarterly report, which came out in March, said this: the conflict in Iraq has changed from a predominantly Sunni-led insurgency against foreign occupation to a struggle for the division of political and economic influence among sectarian groups and organized criminal activity, the Pentagon's quarterly report on Iraq to Congress. The Pentagon report also said sectarian violence has become the greatest impediment to the establishment of security and effective governance in Iraq. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. It's true. But what I would highlight is Al-Qaeda is part of that sectarian violence. Al-Qaeda is part of that crime. In some neighborhoods, it would be a classic shakedown. We will provide security if you give us money and resources. So Al-Qaeda is a major portion, not the only. It's had significant impact, but there are other sectarian disagreements and criminal activity going on, as I mentioned, even Shia on Shia in some cases.